People can be pretty awful sometimes. There are difficult people all around you, manipulative people who are very egotistical, who are out for their own agenda. What you can control is your own psychology, your own mindset. You have to go into battle. This world is like battle. There's conflict everywhere. Seduction is a form of power that women invented. It was the only form of power that they had in the ancient world. You have two ways you can go in life. In my Laws of Human Nature, I talk about your attitude towards the world, whether it's negative and closed and kind of retreating, or whether it's open and excited and advancing. And so the point I'm trying to get everyone to understand is stop complaining, stop blaming the world, stop blaming this person or that force or that thing going on in society, and look at yourself and look at how you are responsible to some degree for what happens to you. Now, of course, there are things we cannot control. We can't control that our industry is completely wiped out because of progress, technological progress, such as happening in AI. So you're going to be suffering. There's going to be inevitable pain. As you pointed out, some of that pain comes from people. People can be pretty awful sometimes. There are difficult people all around you, manipulative people who are very egotistical, who are out for their own agenda. Okay, that's one element. Then it's painful, all the changes that are going on in the world and keeping up with it. And it's extremely difficult to be successful in this world. There's so many forces against you. It is so competitive. You know, I look at the world that my father grew up in, or I grew up with him 70, 60, 50 years ago. And, he had one job that he had throughout his whole life. And he had kind of a secure world that he lived in. I came from the middle class. He was able to buy a home. I had a decent childhood because of that. And that world is completely gone now. There's so much more insecurity. There's so much more competition. Nobody stays at one job for that long. Your boss no longer takes care of you as they used to take care of people, right? You're on your own, right? And you can either get all upset and turn inward and complain and worry and get insecure. And what happens when you do that is you're just making life more difficult, right? So if your attitude is, I'm only alive once, life is like a kind of adventure. I have to go out and be excited and make the best of everything that happens. And I have to be opportunistic. So opportunities will be coming your way. If you have that attitude where you're excited, you're open, and you're looking, things will happen to you. So I guess the main thing in my books is you have some power, but it has to come from within. No one's going to give you anything in this world. And I'm trying to train you, all 8 of my books, to always look at yourself, to look at the role that you play in your failures and the bad things that happen to you, so you can develop this inner strength and this resilience that is the number one skill that you're going to need in this world today. It depends on your situation, on where you grew up, and how old you are. So people who are older from my generation, I don't think we feel so much that kind of sense of powerlessness. But people more, I don't know your age, but more of your generation, some of you are old enough, you grew up with the crash of '08. Then you had the pandemic and all the economic troubles that ensued from that, and how that made the job market incredibly insecure. And now you're having to deal with AI. I think people that I see, young people, are so much more anxious and worried than when I was growing up, because there doesn't seem to be much future, much hope right now. The world looks like everything's sort of against them, So everything sort of looks like, I don't have much hope. I don't know what to grab onto. I go and I learn some solid career like coding or whatever, software, making that. And now all of a sudden that job is evaporated. And positions are now going to be evaporating in finance, in real estate, all throughout because of AI. So you're looking at a landscape that is chaotic, that is difficult, that makes you feel like you have no power and no control. And I can understand that very well. if there's anything that makes me different, it's because I didn't have success until my late 30s and even my early 40s. I went through a long period of 20 years where I couldn't figure out my career. And I felt that anxiety and I felt that powerlessness. I couldn't figure out what I was meant to do. And I tried this job, that job, and other jobs. I never had one job for more than 11 months in my entire life, right? I just moved here and there. I couldn't find my niche. I had depression. I even felt suicidal. So I understand very, very deeply from within that sense of not having power or control over your fate. I also had some really, really terrible bosses. And so I know the pain of having to work for others. So that is kind of where the 48 Laws of Power came out of. My own powerlessness, looking at people in the world that I saw who were kind of controlling the game. What are the laws that they were using? I want to give you the feeling that so much you cannot control, but what you can control is your own psychology, your own mindset. You have to go into battle. This world is like battle. There's conflict everywhere. There's so much competition. You have to have a tough warrior type mindset and resilience about you. And that's what I'm trying to inculcate in my books. But I understand very deeply why people are so anxious and insecure, because I felt that for many years myself. I had many different positions in Hollywood. As I said, I was constantly moving around, so I was very restless. There were moments where that hatred, that distaste for it kind of became very evident. But it was almost sort of an allergic reaction. Some of it is, I'm just not suited for that world. I'm a control freak. I like to have power. I write a book, it's all of my own. Nobody's sitting there over my shoulder saying, change this, change that, do this, do that instead, etc. I love that. That's what I live for. In Hollywood, you have no power. You're a cog in a giant bureaucratic machine, right? If you're a writer, 10 other writers are coming over and they're changing everything that you do, right? Everyone has their egos. You know, it's all about, they pretend that it's about culture and making movies, and they're so full of themselves, but it's really about money and power. Right? So you can kind of hear the disdain that I have for it, because I saw it from the inside. People who seemed that they were so into like the aura of Hollywood, but they were such bastards. They were such assholes. They didn't treat people well. It's a place where a lot of people are not treated well, particularly on the lower levels, a lot of the time where I was. So sometimes people, friends, aren't necessarily who you think they are. Each law has two sides to it. There's the side of the aggressor who is using that law against you, amoral, whatever you want to call them, manipulative. And then there's you, perhaps you, the victim of their games, right? So half the purpose of the laws is to reveal to you what other people might be doing to you. So another law in the book that people talk about as being evil, which might be on your list, is get other people to do the work but always take the credit. And in Hollywood, I was the victim of that. So I'm not just telling you go out and take credit for other people's work. People are doing that to you. So pose as a friend, work as a spy. If you're trying to gather information on people, on somebody that you don't like, or somebody who's your competitor or your rival, if they know that you're a rival, they're going to be on their guard. They're going to be wary. They're going to be defensive. They're going to protect themselves. But if you lower their resistance, the power game is about lowering people, going around in the world. You're playing chess. You're lowering people's resistance so they don't defensive, so they don't know what you're up to, so they have no idea the game that you're playing. They think you're friendly, they think you're warm, they think you're a really nice guy, but deep down you're playing this game. If they know you're playing the game, they're never going to fall for it. So 90% of the game of power is disguising all that. So if you're trying to gather information about power, about people and what they're up to and their intentions, you have to lower their resistance. You have to become their friend. You have to get on their side, and then they won't suspect that you're actually secretly gathering information from them. And information, mind you, it's not just spying. It's not just stealing things from their drawers, secrets. It's observing them. So let's say I actually am your enemy right now, Hannes. I really don't want the good in you. I want to get something out of you, okay? Just we're pretending, okay? All right? So I become your friend, and we hang out, we're buddies, and we go to these restaurants in Dubai and everything. And then you start opening up and you start revealing to me some of your secrets, some of your weaknesses. I'm gathering information that I can now use against you, right? So that's what it's about. It's gathering information on people, but be wary of people who do that game to you. They might be playing that on you. People who are truly amoral, who are true power players, they don't need my book. They know it. It's in their DNA. It's in their fingers. They know how to play the game. In fact, they don't read books usually. That's the type that doesn't need to read books. And so the book is really for those who are naive, like I was. I'm not a great power player in the world because I never had any power until I was 39 years old and wrote the books. I was pretty low down on the scale, right? So I'm not writing it from the point of view of a Donald Trump or an Elon Musk. I'm writing it from the point of view of somebody very low down looking up. And so you need people who are too naive in this world. Your parents don't tell you what the world is like. You enter the work world full of these ideals and these concepts, and they're not real. You don't understand how the world operates. It can be kind of brutal out there. Not always, but it can be. You're too naive. You're too trusting of people sometimes. I'm not telling you to be paranoid. I'm telling you to be a little bit aware and to be on your guard sometimes. This will not make you an ugly person. It will spare you a lot of unnecessary drama. So let's say you don't read Robert's book. You don't care. You don't think about people's egos. You inadvertently offend your boss when you think you're not, and now suddenly he or she is making your life hell, and then they fire you, and you're like, this has happened to me before I wrote the books. And you go home and you're miserable, and you go, what happened there? I was doing a good job, and now I'm fired. And it makes you confused, and it makes you emotional, and it makes you skittish and fearful of your next job. It can ruin your life. If you avoid that and you don't outshine the master, and this doesn't happen, you've spared yourself 2 years of internal turmoil and drama and doubts about yourself. Power is freedom. It's the freedom. I don't have a boss. I don't have anybody censoring me. I don't have anybody telling me what kind of books I have to write. I can write what I want. My editor, basically gives me carte blanche. I have so much freedom, it's scary. And I appreciate it and I understand, because for those 38 years, I had no freedom. I had no power. I know what it's like on the other side. So I'm not callous. I understand that I'm very privileged, that I'm unusual that way. But damn it, man, I have so much freedom. It's such a blessing. I can write this chapter now that I'm writing. I don't have to worry about what I say. I can be as brutal as I want to be about what's going on in the world. It's insane. And then not be emotional about it. But I have had a lot of impact on other people, right? And that's probably the most satisfying thing in the world, because I don't really write books for myself or for my ego. I know I'm sounding like I'm trying to promote myself, but it's true. I write it for other people. I write it trying to help them, seriously, because I could have written books in a year or 2 years that made a lot of money, that had kind of a gimmick behind them and sold well, but they wouldn't have been good. They wouldn't have really done what I wanted. I've taken a lot of time, and I ruined myself physically to the point where I had a stroke, because I really, really, truly want to help people in this world that's can be so brutal. And so to get feedback from readers saying the books really, really helped me is a feeling of the most powerful feeling of all. Occasionally it's the opposite, saying you ruined my life. My spouse, my partner, my boss read your book and they screwed me. Not very often, but mostly it's like, man, you saved me so much. You helped me build my business. If it weren't for your book, this wouldn't, blah, 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 would have happened. So that's the kind of power I feel now. And I'm like 22 years old. I graduated college, with a degree in classics. My head's in Homer and Thucydides and Shakespeare. And then I'm thrust, after I came back from Paris, into the world of New York. I live in New York, journalism, Esquire magazine. And all of a sudden, I'm seeing all these people walking around. They're like actors. They've got these egos. They're all playing these power games. They're like courtiers in the court of Louis XIV, all flattering these other writers, the editors, etc. It's this game going on. I don't understand what's happening. I get very emotional. I get very confused. I get very upset. I take it personally. The book would have really might help me. Seduction is a form of power that women invented. It was the only form of power that they had in the ancient world. It was the power of a courtesan, it was the power of Cleopatra or Helen of Troy or whomever. Seduction is not about getting quick sex or anything like that. It's a psychological process of making other people lower their resistance, lower lower their walls and open themselves up to you. And when they open themselves up to you, you can make them fall in love with you. You can make them do what you want. Yes, you can manipulate them, or yes, you can start a relationship. You can have love, or yes, you can win a political campaign. Kennedy's campaign in 1960 against Nixon was a classic game of seduction. Or in your marketing campaigns, you're seducing the public. Or as an artist trying to win an audience like a 50 Cent or a filmmaker, you're seducing the public. If you hit people directly in the face, if you use the hard approach and hit them like people do in advertising like they used to do, people get defensive. But if you attack from the side, if you lower their resistance, they open themselves up to your ideas, you can seduce them. So what interested me was the large psychological picture of seduction. What ties together a political, a marketing, a social, and a sexual seduction? What is the psychological process that connects all of these forms together? And that's what I tried to describe in the book.